Yeah. Morning, Jaime.
Morning, Rabbi.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Happy Hanukkah and Chodesh Tov to everybody.
Amen. Chag Sameach. Chodesh Tov.
Yeah, it should be everything good for the Jewish people here and all around the world.
Amen.
Okay, 132b1. Okay, we said yesterday, we discussed the size of the Hadassim, the Aravot, and we're going to do more of that. We're going to do more of that today. Let's see, 1 second. Okay, we said yesterday that the size of the Hadassim is 3 Tvachim, and the size of the Aravot are also 3 Tvachim, which is about 11 inches. There's a minimum size for the Hadassim. There's a minimum size for the Aravot. We also spoke about the Lulav also has a minimum size, that the spine of the Lulav, where the leaves protrude from, come out on each side, has to be a minimum of 4 Tvachim, which is around 15 inches tall. Like we said yesterday, we generally don't have Jaime, do we still have you there, or we'll miss you now? We said usually there's not a problem with the lulav. Usually the lulav is pretty nice size. Good morning, Mr. Haber. But what the issue is, usually sometimes the aravot and the hadassim, sometimes they get a little short, right? So some people have to be careful that they are the right size. Correct? Everybody? Right? I'm going to see what happened with Jaime. What happened if he's still on the screen? Mr. Haber, we are on 32B1. Okay. So the Gemara says the following: Tashma. You have Gufa. We're on Gufa. You have the Gemara Gufa. Okay. Gufa. Shir Hadas v'Arava Shlosha. The shlir of the Hadas and the shir of the Arava is 3 Tvachim. And the lulav we said is what? It's for the lulav arba. And the lulav is 4 Tvachim, right? That's what the Gemara says.
Rabbi.
Yeah, Jaime, did we miss you?
I'm gonna have to call back.
Oh, no problem. You got it. Okay, very good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the computer problem. Okay, thank you. So the Gemara is like this. Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Ba'ama bat chamisha tvachim. Rabbi Tarfon says we're talking about an amma that has 5 tvachim. So he says that this law that you have to go ahead and have, when you say 3 tvachim, see an amma is a certain measurement, and an amma can have, you could split an amma sometimes into 5 tvachim. You could split an amma, let's say, into 6 tvachim. So an amma, let's say, for example, let's say an amma is 22 inches, right? So you could split it 22, or let's say we'll call it 24 inches. So you can split 24 inches into, if you split into 6 parts, so each part would be 4 inches. Or you could say or you could divide it into 5 parts. So each part would be 5 point something, right? So if you divide the amma into 5 parts, so therefore each part will be much obviously greater than if you divide it into 6 parts. Is that correct, Ms. Haber? Right? That's obvious. So the question here is, so the Gemara says that he's talking about an amma that has, an amma has 5 parts. There's 5 parts to this amma, and the Gemara understood. Good morning, Simon. The Gemara understood, it's thinking that he holds it has to be actually an amma that has actually 5 tfachim. And Rashi says, the Gemara is thinking that the amma, let's say the amma is 5, is a 5 tefach amma. So if the amma is 5 tefachim, it's 5 parts, it's made up of 5 parts. If it's made up of 5 parts, that means it's a lot. That means that the Gemara is thinking that the hadas, till now, the first opinion says the hadas in the aravot has to be 3 tefachim. 3 tefachim would be 3 parts of an amma. We say, or 3 tefachs, and an amma has a certain amount of tefachim. An amma is made up of a certain amount. And this rabbi is saying that has to be 5 tefachim. The size of the aravot and hadasim, the Gemara is thinking that he's saying it has to be not 3 tefachim, which would be, but rather it has to be 5 tefachim. Right. So let's see the language over here. You see, let's say the common measurement for an amma is a 6 tefachim, but sometimes you measure the amma. Sometimes you break the amma into 6 parts, and sometimes you break the amma into 5 parts. And he says that the Gemara says it has to be an amma bat chamisha tefachim. It has to be an amma 5 tefachim. So the Gemara questions what he just said. If the Gemara says, so the Gemara is thinking that the second opinion that says that it has to be an amma 5 tefachim, the Gemara is thinking the second opinion holds that you have to have 5 tefachim, and a tefach is a certain measurement, 5 tefachim to fulfill your mitzvah of aravot and hadassim. Again, what's the given? The given is that there is the Tanakama. The first opinion says that it has to be 3 tefachim, right? Tanakama says that the size of the hadassim and the aravot are 3 tefachim. Okay, he said it has to be 3 tefachim. And now comes the second opinion, which seems to indicate it has to be 5 tefachim. So that seems to be the second opinion of the Gemara. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Okay, so that means it's a tremendous difference between opinions. If the size of the aravot and the hadassim have to be a 3 tefach is around 11 inches. And if you say it has to be 5 tefachim, it's almost double the size of the aravot and the hadassim. That's what the Gemara is thinking at this point. So the Gemara you see, there's different types of amma. There's an amma that's called an amma gedola. There's an amma that has 6 tefachim. There's an amma that has 5 tefachim. But for our purposes, the Gemara is thinking that the second opinion is holding you have to have the size of the aravot and the hadassim have to be the size of an amma and an amma of 5 tvachim. A small amma, it's not 6 tvachim to the amma, it's 5 tvachim, 5 parts, 5 tvachim to the amma, but it needs to be 5 tvachim, not 3 tvachim, much more. Okay? So the Gemara is going to challenge this opinion. So everything, let's make it clear.
So if I understand it correctly, we said the lulav has to be. There was this debate between 3 and 4 tefach, right?
We said that the lulav is 4 tefach.
4
the spine
tefach.
of the lulav is 4 tefach, and that rava
4 to 3. Okay.
Right.
And now you're saying that's the minimum, which is we said around 15 inches. I think you said
correct. 15 inches of the spine itself. The spine. Right. According to one opinion in the Gemara.
So now we're saying the hadassim and the aravot. Actually, I don't know why we're talking about it in Amah now. Why Amot now? Why aren't we talking about it in Tefach again? And it's seemingly the opinion is that the minimum is bigger than the minimum of the lulav.
Correct. That's what the seemingly statement of the Gemara is going to jump all over it. Exactly, Mark. It's saying that the aravot hadas has to be 5 tefachim. Sorry, yeah, that has to be 5 tvachim. It counters the opinion of 3 tvachim. So the Gemara is going to say it can't be. Why can't it be? It's hard enough to find hadassim that are kosher that are 3 tvachim long. That you should have a hadas that comes out three leaves and 3 leaves and 3 leaves over an area of 11 inches. It's hard to find. Now you're expecting to find over five tvachim, which let's say if it's over about 90, close to 90, you think you're going to find 90. It's hard enough to find hadassim that have 3 by 3 over 11 inches, and now which is 3 tvachim. Now you want to tell me you have close to 19 inches. You're going to find hadassim that are that long, that are proper. Meaning a ravot is not a problem. It's easy to find a ravot. Willows that are 2, the willows come 2 leaves by 2 leaves, right? They're not hard to find. You get these long willows; they're beautiful, and you can find many of them without a problem as long as you want. But to find hadassim that are running properly, braided properly, it's very hard to find. So therefore, to say that you're required to find the 19 inches of hadassim that are 3 by 3 by 3, he says, you know what? That's going to be a very big difficulty, tircha, for the Jewish people. And you're saying something that's going to be very difficult for the Jewish people to say that, and to say, in the way I will explain it, to say that that's what Hashem asked us to do for the mitzvah. Generally, Hashem does not ask us to do something which is so difficult to find. He doesn't tell us to do a mitzvah.
My question is the minimum of this should be surely less than the minimum of the lulav.
Say that again?
Basis. And because the hadassim and the aravot cannot be higher than the lulav, then the minimum should be less.
Right, but according to this opinion, it would be high. According to this opinion, it technically...
Is it coming from different place? Different opinion?
Right, according to what the Gemara is thinking. You see, the Gemara is... Sometimes the Gemara has something called the Havamina, what the Gemara was thought it understood the rabbi meant. And then the Gemara is going to say that's not what the rabbi meant. That's what's going to happen over here. Okay. The Gemara is going to say the rabbi never meant to say you need hadassim aravot 19 inches of 5 tefachim long of hadassim and aravot. But the Gemara is thinking the Gemara took his words literally. Because what did the rabbi say? The rabbi said, "Ba'ama Rabbi Tarfon ba'ama bat chamisha tefachim." An amma of 5 tvachim. And we said there are different, an amma, there are certain types of amma, a certain measurement, and there's a larger amma, and there's a small amma, and it says it's an amma of 5 tvachim. It's a small amma of 5 tvachim. So if it's a small amma, but it's still 5 tvachim, so if it's 5 tvachim, that's still let's say that's 19 inches or whatever it is. So that's what the Gemara took his language literally. So therefore, the Gemara jumps on him. It's a very interesting comeback of the Gemara. The challenge of the Gemara is very. Look what the Gemara says. Amar Rava, Shore le More le Rabbi Tarfon. May God, may Hashem forgive Rabbi Tarfon for saying such a thing. To say such a thing that the Jewish people have to work so hard to find something, to be able to fulfill this mitzvah, that the requirement of the Torah is that you got to go ahead and find hadassim that are 19 inches, 3 by 3. God should forgive him for even suggesting such a thing. That's going to be such a difficulty for the Jewish people. You know what it's like. The Gemara spoke about before. The ways of the Torah are peaceful, and the ways of the Torah are sweet. And therefore it can't be hadassim, can't be something. Well, the lulav can't be something that is thorny on the side, right? We said that the Gemara says when the Gemara suggested maybe the hadassim or the lulav is something that is a type of species that something it's a little thorny. You get it's like a thorn. It pricks you. The Gemara says it can't be because the ways of the Torah are sweet and peaceful. I would say the same thing. That's behind the Gemara's question over here. The Torah does not ask us such a thing, such a difficult thing, to say that the Torah is telling us you have to have such a rare to fill this mitzvah. It's a very rare. You would have to be working and digging and finding. It's very hard to find. It's so scarce to find such a commodity, a hadassim like that, and that's what the Torah is asking you to do to perform a mitzvah. Do we have any type of mitzvah? You see, and you could tell me, Rabbi, what do you mean techelet? Right? We know that techelet it's not a simple money Ariel. It's a very difficult thing. It's not easy to find. But the answer is that techelet doesn't hold you back from filling the mitzvah. Tzitzit. If you won't have techelet, you can still get the mitzvah tzitzit. You don't get the mitzvah techelet. But here you will not get the mitzvah lulav, a retro. But it's all one. You need the hadassim, the ravot, the lulav and etrog, not to fill the mitzvah. So to say that you will not be able to fill the mitzvah of lulav at all, unless you have these type of hadassim, it's not so logical. So that's what the Gemara says. Hashta avot shlosholo mishkachina. We're even having trouble finding hadassim that are 3 by 3, that are 3, run 3 leaves all along for over 11 inches. Bat chamisha miboyet, to say that we're going to find something that's 5 tfachim of 3 by 3. Do you think we're able to find that? So the Gemara says, Kiati Rav Dimi Amma. When Rav Dimi came back from the Holy Land, and he came to morning mark. Chodesh Tov to everybody. When he came to Bavel, he said the following: Amma bat shisha tfachim. We are on 32b2 on the top of the page. Welcome, Ariel, as well. When he came back to Bavel, he said the following. Of course, the Amma does not have to be. Of course, the hadassim and that robot does not have to be 5 tfachim. No way. Mark had his issue with it. To say that that's a good point. To say that it's going to be actually larger than the lulav itself, and then maybe it's not. The Gemara says no. The hadassim and the robot do not have to be 5 tfachim. What it means to say is the following: when you have an amma bat shisha tfachim, when you have an amma that's a 6 tefach amma. When an amma, good morning, Yosef. Chodesh Tov, Yosef.
Good morning and Chodesh Tov, Rabbi.
Good to see you. So when you have an amma, which let's say the standard 6 tefach amma, if you have, so instead of aseh ota bat chamisha, make the standard amma that has 6 parts to it, break it into 5 parts. Okay, so if you break it into 5 parts, so then what you have increased each part by about 1/5, right? If you had something that had 6 parts to it, And now no longer you made something that has 6 parts. Let's say you have an hour, 60 minutes, and each part you made, if you broke into 6 parts, each part is 10 minutes. Now, if you break each part into 5 parts, that means each one is 12 minutes. 12 minutes over 10 minutes, an extra 2 is about a fifth. So he's saying what Rabbi Tarfon is saying. He's saying astringency. The first opinion says it's the normal. It's 3 tfachim. The first opinion says it's 3 tfachim. This opinion says that you take the amah that has 6 parts into it and break it into a 5 tefach, a 5-part amah, and you need to have 3 tefach. You need to have 3, and out of the 5, divide it to 5 equal parts, and then make from that those 5 equal parts, which will now each part will have an extra fifth. Say mehem shlosha lahadas and v'hasha lulav. Go ahead and make 3 of those 5 for the hadas. So 3 of the 5, for each of the 5 parts that now have been increased by a fifth. So I want you to have 3 and 3/5. What will come out now will be 3 and 3/5 tfachim, and for the size of the hadassim. If you want to mention to Michael Silverman, he's trying to come in. He wants to try to come in again. You could try to come in again. So that's what the Gemara says. Kame, and then and v'hashalululav. Okay, it says 2 people in the waiting room. Let's see if we get them in. Ariel, maybe you want to help us out over here, Ariel, with the computer. Okay, so that's what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying, no, there was a minute ago. There was 2 people in the waiting room. Maybe we'll see if they're going to try to get in again. Sorry. Okay. So that's what the Gemara is saying. So again, everyone has that. That he's saying that the sixth.
Yosef, Jaime, can you hear? Okay.
So wait.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry. I'm just
I have sound,
doing
guys.
morning schedule for my kids.
No. We just wanted to make sure it was working.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you get Mike Silverman in?
No, we didn't get Michael's trying to get in. I don't know why he's not getting in.
Maybe it's so if they are on, it means that it's on the Michael's phone. So he probably is gonna log back in. Just give it a couple minutes.
Okay. Okay, so that's what the Gemara wants to say, that this opinion is requiring the size that you have to have, not 3 tfachim. It's the size of the hadassim and the ravot. It's going to be 3 and 3/5 tfachim, which is almost 4 tfachim, which would mean that whenever we said the size of a lulav, which would be 4 tfachim, this is going to be 3 plus 3/5 of a tefach, which would be still less than 4 tefachim. The lulav is still the winner mark, but by not so much. Instead of being 25% larger from 3 to 4, it's 3 and 3/5 to 4 tefachim. So that's what the Gemara says. Kama havile tlata utlata chumshe. By the way, the Gemara is going to move away from this. So it's not going to stick with this. Kama havile tlata utlata chumshe. 3 and 3/5. By the way, we're doing math. You see, in the Gemara, you got math. Everything is in Torah. You can learn math also from the Gemara here. Everything, you know. So Kama have 3 kasher Shmuel to Shmuel. The Gemara now has a challenge on what we just said. We have a contradiction. What's the contradiction? Hacha Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Here, Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Shir Hadas, the size of Hadas, and Arava is Shlosha, is 3 tefachim. V'hatam Amar Rav Huna Amar Shmuel Halach Rabbi Tarfon. And there he said the halacha like Rabbi Tarfon, which would mean to indicate it's 3 and 3/5 tefach. It's not 3 tvachim. It's larger. So we have a contradiction. In one place, you say the law is 3 tefach, which you say is around 11 inches. And one place we say it's 3 tefach, and the halacha is 3 tefach plus another 3/5. Don't forget about that 3/5. The 3/5 could be another 2 inches, a little over, maybe a little over 2 inches. So instead of being 11 inches, it'll be 13 inches and change. So the Gemara, so what is the halacha? You can't. It's either 11 inches or 13 inches. So the Gemara says lo duck. Shmuel, when he said 3 tvachim, he wasn't exact. He used a round number. You know, sometimes people like to round things off, right? So he rounded it off, but instead of calling it, you know, something you can round off 3 3/5. You want to say round it off to 4, but he rounded it off to 3. He rounded it off to 3. So therefore, it's not a contradiction. Good morning, Michael. We're sorry if you had some difficulty getting in. But you
Happy
see,
birthday,
we're
Mike.
persistent. What'd you say?
It's Michael's birthday.
Mazel tov, Michael. Mazel tov, Mabruk. So so the Gemara wants to say he wasn't exact. So the fact that he said the word 3 tvachim, it's not that he meant only 3 tvachim. It could be he means, you know, maybe it's also 3 3/5. But he didn't want to mention the you know, the cents. You know, how much does it cost? $39.60. So instead of saying it cost me $39, you didn't really. What do you mean? It cost you $39.60? But you rounded it off. You have to be honest. But I'm saying, but it was not this on, because that's how people not always talk about the cents on the thing. That's what the Gemara says. You hear that, Mr. Haber? So he says instead of saying 3 tvachim and 3/5 of a tefach, he just said 3 tvachim. But he really holds that it has to be 3 3/5. That's what the Gemara says. So now the Gemara shoots back an amazing question on that. Because you know what's going to happen as a result of that? As a result of that, if you tell me that he holds 3 3/5, and if you tell me he rounded around something off, you don't round something off that could really make you make a big mistake. Because if you say 3 tvachim, and really you require it to have larger than 3 tvachim, 3 3/5, people will make a mistake and they'll say, you know what? He says 3 tvachim and only needs 11 inches. You're telling me he needs 3 tvachim and 3/5 of a tefach, which let's say 13 inches. That means you need more than 3 tvachim. How could you go out? Imagine a rabbi goes and says, hey, Rabbi, what's the size of a hadassim, a ravot? The rabbi says 3 tvachim. 11 inches, which will be interpreted to 11 inches. But really, the law, you mean 3 3/5. It really is. How can you say a statement that's you're rounding a statement where people are going to make, you know, if you want to round it not to make a mistake, better say 4 tvachim. Then a person will do more than less. Because if you make a statement 3 tvachim and it's really 3 3/5 of a tefach, people will come in and they'll be short on the deal. And they're not meeting the minimum requirement, possibly, good morning, of hadassim and aravot. That's the Gemara's question. Look how the Gemara says. The Gemara says, morning, shalom, good morning. When maybe we say he's not careful and he's not exact in his, when you round something off, l'chumra. If you're going to be strict, if a stringency is going to come out, so it's not going to bother us if people are going to make a mistake and become a little bit more stringent than necessary, because you were talking in round numbers, and then the other place you explain yourself, you don't have to have that much, but I just rounded it off. So here, very good. So here, there's a specific minimum size that's necessary to fulfill the mitzvah of aravot and hadassim. And if you're short, you don't got it. You lost. You don't have the mitzvah. So there, you know, just like the Gemara talked about, there's a minimum size for an etrog. The etrog is too small. You don't get the mitzvah. So therefore, you have to be very. Good morning, Mark. Good morning. What do you say? Right. You could always go higher. There's no max. There's no max when it comes to the hadassim and the ravot. Doesn't seem to be a max. But since there's a minimum, you have to be very exact. If you're gonna if you're gonna make it, you're gonna say a size which people are gonna think is the proper minimum size, and really you require more than that. You will never make. You will not round it off, which could cause you a mistake. So that's what the Gemara says. But to say a leniency, that a person will make a statement and a leniency will come out of it, which will be not proper leniency, not halachic leniency, he'll make a mistake. There's no rabbi is going to be not careful about that. No rabbi will talk in a way that people will misunderstand the law, and I'm just rounding off the number when you really need something more than that. So therefore, the Gemara says that can't be the explanation. Piata Ravin Amah. So Ravin, he came to Bavel. As you know, there was the exchange of rabbis traveling from Israel to Bavel, and they would pick up a lot of Torah, God bless you, in different places in Israel. They would bring it back to Bavel and explain what they said in Israel in Bavel. And Kiat Ravin Amah, he said like this: Amah bat chamisha tfachim. If you have a Amah that's a 5 tefach Amah, we said that an Amah, which is a certain size, the certain Amah that has with it, that's a 5 tefach Amah, which is a small Amah, it has 5 tefachim. It has 5 parts. And let's say, look at a pint or something. You say this Amma has 5 pints. There's an Amma that has 6 pints, right? 6 pints is larger than 5 pints, right? So you have an Amma that has 5 tefachim. So and take that Amma and asay ota shisha. Take this Amma that has 5 parts. Let's say, for instance, an hour. An hour, let's say if you'll say the hour is made up of 5, we're going to break the hour into 5 parts. Each part will be 12 minutes. So instead of breaking it into 5 parts, I want you to break that hour into 6 parts. So 6 parts now, instead of each part being 12 minutes, it's going to be 10 minutes. There's 6 parts to that hour. So which is now like 20, each part is now 20% less than originally was. Originally it was 5 parts. Each part was 12 minutes, and now each part was what became 10 minutes. So that's what he's saying. He's saying, I want you to go ahead and take the Amah that had 5 parts, that had 5 tvachim. I want you to break it into 6 tvachim. I want you to break it into 6 small tvachim. So therefore, each tefach is now 5/6 of the original size of a tefach. But you made it smaller because you broke it into, instead of having 5 parts to this, you broke the same item into 6 parts. So now, and that's where, so he's coming to be lenient. He's coming to say that the size, Morris, just to bring up to date, the size of Hadassim and Aravot, and with he's saying that it's 3 small tefachim, which would mean 2.5. Yeah, but by the way, this would apply both to the Hadassim, Aravot, and the Lulav, meaning right. But when he's making his statement, when Rabbi Tarfon is making his statement, that he's talking, it will apply also to the Lulav also. That means the 4 tefach Lulav would also be the smaller size. So we're not equal the full 4 tefachim. So that's what he's coming. So he's coming to say that it's 2.5 tefachim it would come out to be. If the size of Hadassim and Aravot, which would be more convenient for people, it doesn't have to be the standard 3 tefach size. It could be, he's holding that it's really a 2.5. It's 2.5 tefachim, because that's what the Gemara says. Let's see what the Gemara says. Ama bat chamisha tfachim, asay ota shisha, break it into 6 parts, say mehem, and then you have broken the 6 parts. So then take 3 of those 6 parts, 3 for the hadassim, and v'hashar lulav, and then the next and a 4th part for the lulav. So therefore, the Gemara says kama havilu. So the total would be treu palga. It would be a total of 2.5 tfachim. Would be the size of the hadassim and the aravot. But the Gemara says, so at the end of the day, okay, he's becoming lenient. That you don't need to have the full 3 tvachim. Maybe like 9 inches will come out. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara says it's a contradiction, because one place he says you have to be 3 tvachim. The law is 3 tvachim, and the other place he says 2.5 is enough. Is it 3 or is it 2.5? So that the Gemara says he rounded off by saying 3, because by saying 3 there you round it off for a chumrah. That's a stringency. 2.5 you could count it as 2, or you could call it 3. So he called it 3, but no leniency is going to come as a result of making it 3 tefah. And that's him, because you're doing more than you need. So that's what the Gemara is going to say, and therefore there's no problem. Sometimes people like to talk in round numbers, and because sometimes it's harder to remember, when you talk about halves or these type of things. So that's what the Gemara concludes, and therefore he holds that you don't need to have 3 tefachim, even less than 3 tefach would work, as long as it's a minimum size of 2.5 tefachim. I mean, we hold 3 tefachim. We don't hold like this lenient opinion to say that it's 2.5 tefachim would be enough. We say the minimum size of hadassim and aravot is 3 tefach, at least 11 inches. So make sure when you cut your aravot, make sure you cut them. Always cut it a little longer than shorter. You might cut it too short. I've seen sometimes some aravot that are cut a little bit. It'd be better, more comfortable if it's a little bit longer. But when you get on aravot, have a great day, Chodesh Tov, and we welcome such a beautiful crowd. Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and have a happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Everybody got to be on top.
Thanks, brother. Love you.
Happy birthday! Everybody got to be on top of the Amidah, because there's so many new things going on today in the Amidah. We got the Baruch Aleinu. You got the Yalav Yavo, you got the Alanisim. You got to be on top of your game, everybody.
And Polka Rabbi, call it a full house. You got to say everything today.
Exactly. Take care.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye, Michael. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye. What did you say? I think they do both. I think they do both today, right? Thank you very much. Ralph. Everybody catch up? You able to catch up? No. I was actually planning on doing stuff. I ended up in my office till 8 last night. Yeah. Got straight from there. Oh, no, thank you. Where you work? Where? Yeah. No, real estate. Now